Hi, it's me, Alex, a stay-at-home reader, and I have a gigantic stack of books right next to me that I want to talk to you about because it is my pile of possibilities for June and possibly just my entire summer reading because there is no way I can read all of these in June. Oh my gosh, and this isn't even everything I want to read for the summer. So let's start by talking about books that I have already started and need to either finish or DNF. First, we'll talk about one I started recently with my son on audiobook, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I added this to his literature elective. We're reading a lot of like humorous, satirical style books, and we're listening to all of them. So they're like our long car ride reads. And then what my goal of this elective is to use Thomas Foster's How to Read Like a Literature Professor to open up a dialogue about how symbolism is used in books. And yeah, the goal is to show him how to talk about any genre. So we wanted to do a sci-fi to end his freshman year. So we're going with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. It is a reread for me. When I read it in 2008, I did not like this. I now think the humor style has grown on me, and my son seems to really like this style of humor. So he's chuckled a few times so far, but yeah, so we're gonna hopefully finish this up in June. A book I started at least February, if not in January, Orbital by Samantha Harvey. I had DNF this last summer because I tried listening to the audiobook. Then it won the Booker Prize, and everyone was talking about how beautiful the writing is. And I agree. Like, I was picking up on the fact that it was beautiful. So I figured I must just need to read it physically. Like, it's not something to listen to. You have to like really focus, and reading it physically will allow for that, which is not totally how it's played out. It's a very, very short book. It's a tiny little thing. So I feel like there are people who are reading it in one go. I have been reading it for months. The problem is, since there's no like actionable plot line, I would take a break and forget it existed. So it has been months. I need to either finish this or admit defeat once again. In the beginning of May, I started Free Food for Millionaires by Min Jin Lee. This is a chunky book. And I took multiple breaks during the month while reading this. And to end the month, I had gotten to book 3 and decided that was another good pause point. So I need to resume this before much more time passes. And this follows. Do you hear the noise? I filmed this before already, and now I'm redoing it because it was just all noise from my family. I'll just read this off the back. Lee's sweeping epic of love, greed, and hunger, set in a landscape where millionaires scramble for the free lunches the poor are too proud to accept. It exposes the intricate layers of a community clinging to its old ways in a city packed with haves and have-nots. Sanctuary by Paula Mendoza and Abby Sher. This, my 8th grader son, my son Owen, who's in 8th grade, he read this with one of his homeschool classes. Sanctuary. This is a near future 2032 dystopian in which citizens of America are chipped and tracked. It is almost impossible to survive as an undocumented immigrant, but that's exactly what 16-year-old Valley is doing. She and her family have carved out a stable, happy life in a small town Vermont, but when her mother's counterfeit chip starts malfunctioning and the deportation force raids their town, they are forced to flee. So my son read this for a class. Like I said, I was going to try to read along with him and keep up with his class pace, but I only got to chapter 10, and then he took the book back, and the class really like sped through it. I think there's one of his classmates who did not like the book. I think it was just a little too intense for them, but most of the class I think really enjoyed this. My son really enjoyed it. He really wants me to finish it, and he recommended it to his brother. The other books that will definitely be read, A Clockwork Orange, speaking of dystopia, by Anthony Burgess. This I read in high school, and this book will be the kickoff for Nicole and my high school required reading challenge. So if you go back to the TBR video I posted, in which I list the 10 books we will be rereading as our ultimate high school rereading challenge, on that video, in the description underneath that video, there's a link to a Google Drive file that is the report card Nicole and I will be using to track our success with this rereading project, and you can download a copy yourself to follow along, read along with us at your own pace, because this is going to be a very relaxed reading schedule for us to get through the 10 books that we picked. So there is 2 copies, actually. There's the report card with our TBR filled in, and then there's also a blank version in which you can make your own TBR. We're kicking off that project with The Clockwork Orange. This, be warned, is a rather violent book. It follows a young man who commits a heinous crime with his gang of friends, and part of his punishment is to take part in an experiment, a government experiment into rehabilitation. Can they cure him of his criminality? And the cure itself is horrendous. I will definitely be reading In the Time of Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, and the reason this is definitely getting done is because this is on my 9th graders high school reading list for this year. Both my kids are homeschooled, but for my 9th grader, we found an online curriculum. The website is fishtanklearning.com. I love the 9th grade reading list. I've peeked ahead at the 10th grade list, and I'm not as impressed. I have to look further at it, look closer at it. But this is going to be the last unit we cover for the year. This is studying the Mirabal sisters, symbols of defiant hope in a country shadowed by dictatorship and despair. Now, this is set in the Dominican Republic, and that leads well into the next portion of this TBR possibilities list. This will count towards the Caribathon reads. So, also for Caribathon, I have started this one too, actually. I started this last year. I bought this. The cover caught my attention on a table at Barnes & Noble, so I bought it for myself with some birthday money. When We Were Birds by Ayanna Lloyd Bonwo. And this has some magical realism elements. It takes place in Trinidad, so there's some like Trinidadian mythology. Sorry, my tongue was tripping on that. It follows 2 main characters. One is a man who travels to the city for a job, and the only job that's available to him is in a graveyard, which goes against the tenets of his Rastafarian religion, his upbringing. So, our introduction to him is very emotional. He's going through a lot of internal struggle because he has had to shave off his dreadlocks. The other side of the story follows a woman of a kind of magical bloodline. There's some issues between her and her mother. Like, her mother wasn't, like, even up into her deathbed, was not willing to pass on this magical lineage to her daughter. But it has something to do with birds. I don't know if they're like somehow connected to the spirit world through birds. So I think it ends up being a love story between these two characters. One who has been completely averse to being in the realm of the dead, and one who works very much with the dead. So yeah, I started this a year ago, only got 92 pages in, but I'm pretty sure I can jump right back in and that I won't have to reread any of it. Like, I'm still pretty much remembering everything I read. These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card. This is another one that I started years ago on audiobook. Was enjoying it very much, but knew that I wasn't paying as close attention as I should, or giving it the focus it deserved, because I was very much enjoying this. This is another like family immigrant story. Let's see, this is a transporting debut novel that explores the effect of an explosive secret on multiple generations of a Jamaican family. Let's see, it moves backward and forward through time from colonial Jamaica to present day Harlem. The result is an engrossing picture of a family and individuals caught in the sweep of history, slavery, migration, and the more personal dramas of infidelity, loss, love, regret, and finally, transcendence. I also have as a possibility Monique Rafi's The White Woman on the Green Bicycle. I think the group read for Caribathon is Monique Rafi's newest novel. I have read The Mermaid of Black Conch, so I'm familiar with her writing, and I did enjoy that. I don't think it was 5 stars, but I did like that story. There were certain elements of it that were kind of a miss for me, but for the most part, I was very much intrigued or called to read more from her. So this, you could tell from the sticker, I picked up from the library used bookstore. And this follows newlyweds George and Sabine Harwood, who arrive in post-independence Trinidad from England in 1956. Struggling with the loneliness, exhaustion, and the challenges of racial segregation at the dawn of the new political era, Sabine finds some comfort in expressing her hopes and dreams in letters to Eric Williams, Trinidad's charismatic new leader. She never sends the letters, but years later her husband finds the letters, and that just leads to a whole bunch of problems for the couple. What kind of problems? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out this month. Here's another magical realism, probably book, Poppy Show by Leonie Ross. This has another name outside the US. I think it's One Sky Day. I feel like this was getting a lot of praise. I think it was longlisted for the Women's Prize a few years ago. But then I feel like there was another wave of reviews that were more negative. I'm not even entirely sure what this is about, except that it is I'm just realizing now that these aren't just rocks. This is like a body in the water, but I think it's like a magical archipelago. So I'm very much intrigued. I don't want to read the synopsis. I try to just kind of scan through the synopses on books, because I find that either you get too much information, Like sometimes there are things that I would prefer to have been discovered through reading. I don't want to go in knowing certain elements of a story. So that's one possible problem with reading a book synopsis. The other is that you get completely false expectations and it doesn't do what was promised on the back at all. And then you're like, who wrote this? Who's marketing this? So I don't want to know anything more than this is a magical island story. So I think it's a fictional place, a fictional setting, but Leonie Ross herself grew up in Jamaica. And another Jamaican author, my foot's going numb, that's why I'm so wiggly at the moment. Another Jamaican author, Marlon James. This is the book of Night Women. I've never read Marlon James, but I'm a fan of his. However that works, I don't know. This is a story of Lilith, who was born into slavery on a Jamaican sugar plantation. And I guess even at her birth, the slave woman recognized like a spark of like dark magic in her. And again, that's all I want to know. I think in like scanning for buzzwords without closely reading, the Night Women, as they call themselves, have long been plotting a slave revolt, and as Lilith comes of age, they see her as the key to their plans. So I've heard wonderful things about this. I believe this won an award. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So actually, okay, so going from Caribathon, now we'll talk about Pride Month and the books I want to read for Pride Month. Marlon James is a queer author, so while queer themes may not be present in this book, this still kind of segues nicely into what I pulled out as possible Pride Month reads. So, Alison Bechdel's graphic memoir, Fun Home, a family tragicomic. This one's been sitting on my shelves for a little while. I figured may as well give it a try. I read the first chapter the other day and trying to decide if it's something I would get on with or not. I think it should be a quick read. This is the story of Alison Bechdel, who identifies as a lesbian, her difficult relationship with her father, who I think this book explores her discovering that he was actually a closeted gay man. I think. I could be wrong. I have heard great reviews of this, so fingers crossed I enjoy it as well. A book that has been on my TBR forever, and then I'll be able to rewatch the movie. This is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fanny Flagg. I believe the movie only suggests romantic interest between the female characters, and from what I understand, the book goes into that a little bit more, but Fanny Flagg identified as a lesbian. Actually, I don't know that she did. I think she was outed by her girlfriend at the time, who was also a writer. I don't remember exactly the plot line, but I know I've seen the movie multiple times. So I'm looking forward to just like getting lost and like swept away in the story. Then I pulled out My Policeman by Beth Ann Roberts. This is a story of a couple in the 1950s, and in this case, Marion loves Tom, I think more than Tom loves her. And then Tom meets Patrick, but because it's the 1950s and Tom is a policeman, his safe bet is to just marry Marion and have a secret relationship with Patrick. And let's see, the two lovers must share him until one of them breaks and 3 lives are destroyed. And then there's a book that I have read multiple times but it's been a few years since I read it. It is a YA book. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. There was a time that this book was just, the audiobook really was my like comfort noise, my happy place. In periods of my life where my anxiety was like through the roof, I just constantly had this audiobook playing. So it's been a few years since I reread this. I'm kind of afraid going in it because I've loved this book so much. I'm afraid to revisit it, but I'm fairly confident that I will continue to love it. I mean, all these tabs are just places where it has just like struck me right in the heart. Yeah, we follow Aristotle, who is a 16-year-old boy who feels like he just doesn't fit in. He is sad and he is angry and he doesn't totally know why. There is a dark secret in his family. His brother is in jail and his parents just don't talk about it. And that's kind of killing him because he was young when his brother was arrested and he loved his brother. His father is also a Vietnam veteran who doesn't talk about his experiences, so he feels distance from his father. And one day he meets Dante and they form a really close friendship, but it's just a beautiful story of self-discovery, family acceptance. Also, there's a identity element as being Mexican American. Dante especially struggles with being too American for the Mexicans and too Mexicans for the American. I appreciated that element of the story as well. I just love this book. I know some people find faults in it, but I adore Ari. So it's weird that how much I found to relate to him when I think back at like the things I was feeling at his age. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about 3 books that I pulled off my shelves as possibilities for June on the Range. The books in publication order that I want to try: The Prairie by James Fenimore Cooper. This is actually, I think, the 3rd book published in a series, yet sequentially it's like the 5th book of a series. It's the Leather Stockings series, I think is the name. And this includes The Last of the Mohicans, which is very popular. I have not read. I'm nervous going in. Westerns, to me, if there's a lot of the stereotypical bloodthirsty savage, I don't want to read that. But I actually have high hopes for this. And I have The Oxbow Incident, which was written in the 40s, I believe, published in 1940. This one is a sinewy, masculine tale that progressively tightens its grip on the reader. And this one I think is going to be a lot more violent. It's got the $1 sticker. I'm afraid to like rip off the cover, so I've kind of left that for now. This is a searing study of mob justice. The story takes place in the Old West, but it could happen anywhere, anytime that men of action let their anger goad them into taking the law into their own hands. I have a feeling this one could be more problematic for me. Why am I reading Westerns? I think I do like Westerns. I just have to be very particular about which ones I pick up. And this was on a list of like, both of these were on a list of like the best ones. So, and then I have, let's see if I can find the year this one was written. 2021. So much more recent. The Thousand Crimes of Ming Su by Tom Lin. This is written with the violent ardor of Cormac McCarthy. At once a thriller, a love story, and the epic saga of one man's quest for redemption in the face of a distinctly American brutality. So, what draws me to this one is I like more recently written and published Westerns that explore a marginalized identity. So Victor LaValle's Lone Woman was a story following a Black woman homesteading. This is going to follow a Chinese character. I didn't end up finishing. I was kind of up and down. Like, I enjoyed it at certain parts. How Much of These Hills is Gold, which follows a Chinese family and their experiences in the West. There was a book by, I think, Anne North, that followed women outlaws. And so I'm liking this almost like reclaiming of the genre with like previously untold or unexpected identities represented. So I think I'm most looking forward, or like most expecting to enjoy this one. Okay, so I mean, that's more than I could possibly read in 1 month. So let's throw this behemoth in there. This is Hours. So this, if I manage to get to this, it would be for big book summer. So this doesn't have to be read in June. But Hours by Philip B. Williams. And this is the story of a magical community in Arkansas, I believe, where escaped slaves live kind of hidden. So there's a magical realism element that I'm really looking forward to. I think the main character's name is Saint. Yeah, an enigmatic woman named Saint, a fearsome conjurer who in the 1830s annihilates plantations all over Arkansas to rescue the people enslaved there. Yeah, and then she brings them to live in this like community hidden by magic. So I think this is going to be wonderful. Alternate history. I'm really trying to focus this summer on reading off of these shelves that are just overflowing. But I do have a library book. This is The Unicorn Woman by Gail Jones. This tells a story of a Black soldier returning home to the Jim Crow South after serving in World War II. That's all I know. I'm not going to read the synopsis. This was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. My book club for June chose Dungeon Crawler Carl, the first book in that series. So that's another one I would have to get from the library. It's not on my shelves, but I will make that exception for book club. I'm currently on the hold list, so hopefully I get that in time. Other things I would like to read this summer. I do want to read Moby Dick. Herman Melville's birthday is on August 1st. So actually July 31st into August 1st, Mystic Seaport does a 25-hour read-along, like readathon, where you can register to spend the night on a whale ship at the Seaport Museum. I am not going to do that because I have never read the book before. I feel like doing it in 25 hours would be intense and not do the book justice. So I'm going to aim to read Moby Dick in July, and then August 1st for Herman Melville's birthday, go visit Mystic Seaport, check out the ship, and also check out their new whaling exhibit. So that's another goal I have for just the summer in general. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back July and August to as my moods for the summer changes. But yeah, for the most part, I like very town focused, like setting focused novels for summer, especially set in New England, although I'm currently in like a Midwest vibe. But we'll talk about that later in another video when I wrap up everything I read in May and why that Midwest story is calling to me at the moment. But yeah, thanks for watching, and wish me luck with this gigantic TBR.